Hi, my name is May Palakpak, creator of Fully Housewife, The Wiser Years. Welcome to my homeschool podcast. In this podcast, my husband Jay and I will be talking about our lifestyle and our journey as a homeschooling family here in the Philippines. We will be talking about what we do and what we do not do, and how we raise and educate our 3 children who happen to be creatives and artists. We will be talking about our wins, our losses, and our mistakes. And we will also be talking to other seasoned homeschooling families to give you a better picture, so other homeschooling families can figure out and customize their homeschool journeys based on all of our experiences. Catch us weekly on Fully Housewife, The Wiser Years Homeschool Podcast. Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Fully Housewife, The Wiser Years Homeschool Podcast Season 2. And we have with us one of my favorite guests from Season 1. I asked her again to come here today because there's so much more to talk about with this woman. She is my friend, and she's also one of my confidants. She has been homeschooling her kids. 2 of them are already in college. One of her children went to the University of Michigan to take up applied physics. The other one, her eldest, is now in UP, College of Medicine, taking up pre-med course, biology, correct? And she has a 10th grader who is also into STEM. His name is Tax, and he's very actively teaching the young people in the communities in Quezon City through Right Start. Her name is Ilene, and I'd like to welcome her again to the podcast. If you guys want to hear more about her, you can always go back to the first season and listen to her previous interview, and then move on to this one. Hello, Ilene. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, May. Thanks so much for inviting me for the second time.
Feeling ko nga hindi pa to yung yung katapusan. I'm sure there's so much more because there's such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom that I think that so many homeschooling families in our communities can benefit from just listening to you and hearing your insights and thoughts and from your experiences as well. So we were talking about your kids, 2 of your kids going off to college. So I'd like to talk about college this time, because in the first season, we were talking about how you started and how the kids were. And I think we talked about some of the principles that you applied and how you chose curriculum and all that thing. But right now, I want to talk about your college process, because 2 of your kids are already in college, and then there's Dax, who's in 2 years and he'll be off to college again. So my first question to you is, how did your kids find their path?
Okay. Oh my gosh, when you said 2 years, biglang naisip ko empty nester ako soon. So that's actually an interesting question, kasi as you know, my kids are all taking different paths, no, from one another. And so one of the things that we did in homeschooling was expose them to a lot of different activities when they were young. And I didn't actually require them or each one to join the same activities that the other siblings wanted. So this allowed them to pursue their own interests without having to adjust. No, it was difficult for me because then that means I'd have to bring them to 3 different places all the time. But for the activities, it was really, I'd ask them what they wanted to do, and then, or, they'll just suggest it, or I'll suggest it also for them. So Noah actually took piano lessons, and then Reese took violin. Tax wasn't interested at that time. Noah took soccer and taekwondo. Reese naman and Tax weren't interested. Tax liked art. Noah didn't. They both did art for a while, but then Noah didn't want to continue. So those served as our guiding post, what they were interested in. Reese loved biology and English, Tax history and art, and then Noah loved math. No? And as we got older, they went deeper into each of this just to see how truly interested they were. And there were some subjects that they actually let go because later on they realized that this isn't really something I want to pursue. Noah, for a time, thought he wanted to go into marine biology. But then at some point he was like, nah, this isn't something I want so much.
Okay.
So for Tax, we're actually expanding his interest to other aspects of design because he's still young pa naman. Diba? Yeah. Aside from architecture, baka there's something else out there that he might be interested in. Actually, even while they're in college, this path is getting more refined for each of them. So Reese actually found is finding out that she wants to focus more on patients with mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders.
Yeah.
So medyo nafa-funnel na niya yung interest niya. And she's getting clarity on this path in UP and in her volunteer work. Si Noah, I'm guessing, will also later on have a better idea on what field of physics he wants to go into. The one common thread that all three of them have is their community service. And that's really one of the key pursuits of our family, to do whatever they're good at the service of our community. So this is not something we do every Christmas or during calamities, and you know this, diba? That we do it on a regular basis, almost weekly, every month. No? And why do we do this? Because the kids have found out that when other people benefit from what they do, it gives their activities more purpose. So it's their motivation to do even better.
So do you think that because you homeschooled, this helped them find their passions or their interests in lives? Or it could have happened anyway if you continued letting them go to traditional schools?
Honestly, there were a lot of benefits from homeschool that I think made it easier
Okay.
for us and for the kids, to find their interests. The first is that homeschooling gave us the flexibility.
Yeah.
But you know this, we don't have to follow a set of lessons that's mandated for traditional schools, diba? We have the freedom to choose.
Mm.
There are core subjects, definitely, pero outside of that, there's the freedom to explore. And there's the freedom to spend as much time you want on certain topics, on certain subjects. I actually asked Reese this question during the weekend, when I was preparing for this interview. And what she said was that the flexibility in homeschool allowed them to celebrate their strengths. I love that. Reese has an aptitude for science, I said, health and biology, and she had the chance to explore this. No, tax naman art and math. Unlike traditional school, because in traditional school, the setting is there's a lot of students with varying interests, diba? So the school requires them to focus on everything in equal amounts.
Yeah.
Diba? Or the school itself will teach it in equal amount of students. And that's understandable, diba? That system will work there. But because homeschooling is so individualized, there's no pressure to focus on all of the subjects equally. So it allowed them now to focus on what they were interested in, but without, of course, sacrificing the other subjects.
Yeah.
Diba? The other thing, and I might actually be a little bit off topic here, but like what I said, one of the beautiful things that we love about homeschooling, again, because there's no set of lessons that's being dictated to us, is they're allowed to go deep. No? And I think this is also something that kids who are academically advanced may want to look into. Because while Noah and Reese were actually accelerated in grade school, our purpose was not for them to graduate from high school early. There's so much things you can still learn within each subject. So for example, there's physics and there's advanced physics, diba? And they're both high school subjects. And then there's also college physics, which is different naman. So by allowing them to really go deep and just giving them the time to really, not rush them through high school, it gave them a chance to mature emotionally and socially. Kasi in college, and when they're going to have an independent life later on, it will require from us to balance a whole lot of things, not just studies, diba? Our children have to learn how to network. They have to know how to advocate for themselves, how to push themselves out there, diba? So people will notice them. Like Noah, diba? Noah, we held him back actually for a year because we wanted him to feel comfortable and to prepare him for a life test. So simple. Ito nga, my checking emails, which for us is so simple, but he wasn't doing it. Now he's actually doing it by himself and he's doing it regularly. So knowing how to take good care of themselves, diba? How to eat well, to cook for themselves, to exercise on top of making friends, studying. That's a lot of things to consider for a child, diba? So you do want them to give them time to to mature emotionally. The other thing I really do is I taught them to do the things that they're bad at.
Okay.
Parang counterintuitive, no? Because I think subconsciously we as parents encourage our kids to do things that they're good at and excuse them, or maybe not expect so much from them to do things that they're not really keen on. But I taught my kids, don't shy away from things that you're going to be mediocre with, and maybe you're going to be mediocre with that particular thing, activity, for the rest of your life, and that's okay, diba? But you have to do it and do it to the best of your capability. So for example, Tats, he doesn't actually like reading and poetry. And it's so pronounced now that he's in grade 10, but he's still doing it. So why? First of all, and this is the least of the reasons, is he will have to do that in college. So we know his path is really college. And if he doesn't do it now, if he doesn't do it well, he's going to be very much behind later on. And the struggle will be harder. Because English Lit it's skill building, diba? It builds on the previous foundation. And so I don't want him to not be ready for it, where the risk of failure will be higher and then the consequences could be greater. For example, he might lose his scholarship if he doesn't do well, diba? The second reason, and the more important one for me, when we teach them to do things that to still do things that they're bad at, is when you do things that you're not good at, what normally happens at first?
Well, you do bad at it. The results are not.
You fail, diba, sometimes.
Most of the time, the things that we're bad at are things that we're not really interested in.
Yes, that's true.
So
So,
we get lazy.
yeah, you're too lazy to do it, or sometimes you don't do it well. By encouraging to still do the things that they're bad at, I've learned from my kids that it's teaching them that failure is okay. It's okay to fail. And I want to do that, allow them to fail in an environment that I can manage the consequences.
Yeah.
Kasi again, when they go off to college, no matter how good a child is, no matter how gifted, how talented they are, life will always throw to them a curveball. So the sooner that they realize that they will encounter things, and the sooner they encounter things that they won't succeed in easily, the better that they learn from that lesson. So, and the last thing is, it might actually help them become proficient in it. So ito yung interesting lesson that I learned from Reese, is it actually teaching them, keep on doing the things that you're bad, can actually be an avenue for them to explore interests that they might actually not know that they're good at, because they had that attitude that, oh, I'm so bad at. So that's a potential area of unlocking interest. Like, remember, I told you before that she wasn't good in math, diba? To the extent that I had to pull her 3 grade levels down when she was in grade 8.
Yeah.
What she realized now is that she actually enjoys quantitative research, which uses algebra, calculus, and statistics. So by helping her feel comfortable in math, she realized, like, hey, this is something I really enjoy. And it didn't act as a barrier for her to fully explore. And now she's embracing and actually enjoying statistical analysis and quantitative research. So our kids might find something that they actually didn't think of that they'd be good at, and they actually are. So that's one of the things we really love with.
Yeah, I agree with you in that, because I do have kids who are very selective in what they want to learn. But I do tell them that you need to do it anyway. You don't need to be excellent at it. You just need to give it your best. You don't need to, when I say not excellence, I don't mean like just do it without any intention of doing well at it. Of course, the intention of trying your best to do well at it, to give it your best, should be there. What I tell them though is, well, I agree with you when you say that they are in a safe environment. For example, you remember when you invited my kids literary discussion on screw tape letters. My eldest son, who is really not into reading, asked to be excused from it, but he did read the book and he would let me know, I didn't understand this. Let's talk about it, mom, like that. But, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because his plans in life, well, it does have that in terms of he has to understand the stories and the dialogues and the characters and all that with his performances, but nothing much to do on the academic level. Like it doesn't have to be so high, but he does have to learn to go in depth with literature. So he could do it at his own pace. The reason why I ask you whether homeschooling helped, especially for the newer families, that they have this idea that homeschooling is so much better than traditional school. They tend to throw that argument without caution sometimes. And I think that there should be a balance there because some families do thrive
Yes.
when their kids go to traditional school. It really depends on, I guess, the goals of the family. Or what are your thoughts about that?
No, I fully agree. I don't believe there's one mode of education that's, trump everything else. It's so specific to the family needs.
Yes.
And even for the family, it's actually, for me, it's a season. You know, there was a time my kids had to go to trad school, but there was a time that we had to, homeschooling was better for us. So it depends on the family. It depends on the time and the needs of the family because our needs change. If it does take a lot of work, homeschooling. So if the family feels that they need more support, put them in school.
Yeah.
It's really, and so it's for me, it's not that, the question is not that, is homeschool better or, is traditional school not good enough? But it's really, what are the needs of my family?
Yes.
What are my wants? What are our goals? And which type of education will help us get?
Correct. Correct. So now that we're there, now your kids are starting to go back to mainstream school, university. So your son went to college in the US and Reese is now currently studying in the University of the Philippines. Now, I'd like to talk more about Noah now. Like, how was the process like in terms of choosing the university that he would go to? Were there challenges along the way?
Okay, that's really a good question. So his process might be a little bit different from others though, because he wanted also research. So there was an extra layer to that. But first in the process was him trying to figure out which branch of physics he wanted, he was interested in. Because you can do the practical side of physics, the application side, or you can do the but he felt that he wanted to do the research aspect. So he knew two things. He figured out which branch of physics he wanted, and then he knew that he wanted to do research. So that started the process. He looked for schools that had good programs based on those two requirements. He looked at who the professors were. He kind of knew some scientists, and so he looked at which universities they taught at. But he looked at the schools and he looked at who their professors were, what research they were doing. And that for us was really the lengthy and challenging part of the process. It kind of took him months because then he had to, do it between school and his. But once he had maybe a list of like about 20 schools, I think, then he started to shortlist it, and find now the school that's a best fit for him. And what do we mean by that? Meaning it not only offers what he was looking for, but he looked at their other programs and then knowing himself, he then had to look like, okay, will this school give me the support that I need to be able to do what I want later on? Diba? Will this school help me reach my goal? So I don't know anything about that world, that, physics. I'm not nowhere even near science or math career. And so we felt that the only one who'd really be able to help him was the university because we didn't even have any fun. Once he had the list of schools that he was interested in, the application process was actually quite easy. Because in the US, they only apply in most of the schools are under one system. So it's not like here that you apply in individual schools. So you go to the common, you list down the schools that you want to apply in, and then that system will send it to the schools that you put in your list.
Yeah.
So that part of the application part itself was easy. Another one where then it got a bit challenging was when he was writing his essay. Kasi we wanted his essay to be really authentic and unique for the universities to get to know him. So that's challenging kasi how do you let an institution know you in paper, diba, without seeing you face to face? So we had to show his uniqueness through his essays. And then once his college acceptances came in, then it was just really a matter of choosing na which one gave the best scholarship, because we also had to be practical. Diba?
Yeah.
It was just a good thing that the school he liked also offered the highest scholarship. So it worked.
Which is 100% scholarship.
Mm.
Is the essay the same for all schools? Like, does he write this just one essay? Since it's just one system, is it just one essay that went out to all the universities that he was considering?
There is a common app essay that's, they can send to schools, but depending on the university as well, they'll have other essays that they, and sometimes they'll say like, oh, it's optional, but he still did them anyway because he just thought like it was just another way for the university to get to know him. So the students who are interested in applying should also look at, are the universities asking for additional essays, or is it just
So for the information of our listeners and audiences, Eileen actually offers consultation for homeschoolers who are considering applying for universities here and abroad. So that's why I'm asking her all these questions, because she's one of those that actually knows what she's doing when it comes to these things. And I will be putting her information later on in the show notes for those who would be interested to avail of her services later on. But yeah, just learn from her and let her know what your child is planning to do, and should be able to lay out stuff for you. You should be able to talk to your child and possibly talk to you too. You talk to the parents too, right? Yeah, because they're part of the planning. Yeah. How is Noah now? Because he's already there, right? He just recently flew to the US to start his classes. Did the class start already?
It started end of August. Oh, he loves it. We just had a chat with him yesterday. Yeah, so I was like, do you feel that this was a good decision? Are you happy being there? Kind of like, not naman guilt tripping, but kind of like, oh, we're so far away. Are you okay there? And he goes, I'm good. So he's really enjoying. He's taking advantage of the clubs. He's joining clubs. He hasn't made any fast friends yet, and that's okay. Because that's gonna take time, diba? But he loves his professors. He finds the subjects interesting.
In season 1, we talked about the gap year. And now I'm curious, because you said that you took the gap year because you felt that he wasn't like emotionally prepared and mentally prepared yet, because he was only 17 when he applied for the scholarships. Did you just take one gap year, or did you?
Yeah,
I remember that you actually extended a little bit more.
Well, he started the gap year in June because he graduated May. And then we flew to the US in August. So until June until July of this year.
So how did it contribute to Noah now? Now, he sounds really confident in your story, that so confident that he's there even without, having really connected so much with, like not having created friends yet, not those kinds of friends yet. Bosom buddies, as we call them. Or is it just our term? Or do the Gen Zs have a different term now? But he hasn't created bosom buddies yet. But he seems very confident and he knows he's in the right place. Has the gap year contributed to that?
Oh, yeah, a lot. And like what you said, it was really having that confidence in himself, which is so important when you, because there's no mom or dad, there's no parent to protect him, diba? So he has to be the one, to stand there and just take the initiative, which he's doing now. I shared this with you the other day, right? Like he wrote an email to his professor because about an essay where he mistakenly assumed that the author of the novel that the professor was asking them to read was a she, when in fact it was a he. And he was saying, like, I hope you're not going to take this against me when you're grading. And then the professor very kindly replied to him. And this is a far cry from the Noah of last year, because the Noah of last year would rather just keep quiet than send an email like this to his professor. So now he's more of like, I want this. This is what I need to succeed. I'm going to push myself out of the comfort zone. And I think that's really important, because when he took the gap year, he had to commute by himself. He was working with people much older than him in an industry he wasn't familiar with at the start. But realizing that, hey, I can do this. Diba? At the end, he was like, okay, I can do this. I'm actually capable of doing these things. I'm capable of learning things for myself. And so those are the lessons he's taking now there. Because everything talaga, like, even when we were there, and I was like, okay, Noah, you have to open a bank account. And then it's gonna look funny that me as a parent, and then he's like there beside me, I'm the one talking to the bank teller. Diba? Parang looks funny, right? Because they're gonna go like, why can't your kid talk? Diba? Parang ganon eh. But he was like, Mom, I got this. And I was like, go. And then nandun lang kami ni Tax, we were just sitting down there, chatting with each other when he was like opening the bank account, the teller, so much.
Yeah, we really need to prepare them, no? I've always thought that we have been preparing our kids for like real life, but sometimes we run into these circumstances that show us that, hey, you need to teach this to your kid because he doesn't know it yet. So yeah, I guess that's how it happened to you with the gap year. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
I'm just curious though, because I didn't ask this from you the last time. Why the US and why not choose a college in the Philippines?
Because his course was just, he felt like he could get more opportunities out there. He needed the connections. He needed the research opportunities. We're not a very STEM-oriented country, diba? I mean, UP is, pero even that's limited, the opportunities. And a lot of the research opportunities are usually given to higher class men, diba? Or beside graduate class. So he's not that, diba? In the school he's in now, they'll give freshmen the opportunity. So they'll give them at an early age. It's a good head start.
Yeah.
Plus the type of research work that they were offering, that the professors were doing and could provide, it was there. So that's what he wanted.
Okay. Now, Reese chose to go to pre-med here. Does ballet have anything to do with that? Or did she really not consider going to university in the US for her pre-med course?
We felt that pre-med here naman can be just as good. It's a long journey. She'll have to study for so many years. So we felt it was just as good here than it is there. That's why she chose. And UP is a good school. So we felt she could get this same or almost the same opportunities here as she would in the US. So there was no compelling reason talaga for her to go.
Okay. But she's planning to apply for a US university for her medical field?
She's looking into now clinical psychology because that's really where she's interested. And it's not just the US. So she's really exploring maybe other countries also that have good programs. And the reason why she's doing this is because, again, she feels like maybe, first of all, clinical psychology is, I think it's, there's just such a need for that, not just here, but globally, diba? The mental health crisis that's happening in every country. But there's just more wealth of resources and knowledge out there. So Reese's goal is actually to learn out there and then bring it back here. She feels that she can contribute more in developing programs around mental health here by studying overseas.
I remember watching this interview with this female celebrity from the Philippines, and she was being interviewed abroad, and she was talking about how mental health issues are not really there's sort of like a taboo still here in the Philippines. They're not being talked about that much. And a lot of people were angry about that. And I think that based on the reactions that she got, I think that she's right. Because they were just saying like people in the US are just much more sensitive or things like that. But the truth is, people here in the Philippines are just not as open to it as the people are in the first world countries. And it also sort of contributes more to the detriment of the mental health here in the Philippines. So I like that. And I saw also that in the US, they now have this scream box, right? Do we have that? I don't think we have that here yet, but in the US, they now have that in the schools. And I think that a lot of it has to do with, yeah, the difference in the dynamics of children nowadays, because, children nowadays, they don't really go out. I think that the outdoors can really help develop a more healthier child mentally and emotionally. When I was raising my kids, it was a time when children were being kidnapped even in the malls. So parents just started keeping their children in the house, and that's when the gadgets were used as, yeah, yes. And like I think that it affected the way children are growing, developing mentally and emotionally. And yeah, it would really be great to have someone like Chris who, you know, learn so much from those who have already advanced in this field and now come back here and help open the eyes of more people to this need and concern. So yeah.
She's also finding out now because she's doing, she's into this research, the quantitative research. And what she is actually finding out is there aren't that many research studies done here on the mental health of Filipinos. So how can you even think of developing a program if you don't even have the data that you can base your program on or information that you can base a program on? So, there's a lot of opportunities here in that area. And so that's really where she wants to focus on.
And now it takes me back to what you said earlier, that your children develop more interest in things that showed purpose. So this is basically Reese in action, like that principle in action, that there's more purpose to it. So that's where she's headed now. So I want to go to tax now. You said earlier that you are now helping him figure out careers other than just college. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, so we're kind of like maybe it just expand the bigger aspect of architecture is, I guess, design. Diba? So there are several of that. There's that can be architecture. There's also landscape architecture, urban design, industrial design. So, it's easy. You can look at your kids do Coursera. He's kind of doing that, or EDX, just looking at courses online. Is this something, when taking the course, is it something that he thinks might be interesting? He's talking to people in those fields to get their insights, like, how heavy is this work, or like what's the focus of this area, what yung ganon. So it's really asking a lot of questions, looking for people who might be able to kind of show him, give him a picture of what the job really is. And just like what I told him, you're only in grade 10. I don't want that you're suddenly like, you go into architecture in college and then you later on found out after 1-2 years that this is not the path for you. Parang sayang naman. Diba? So explore it now while you're still young. Because of the fact that the more he's exposed to it, it could, diba, like Reese, kind of move in a different direction than where he originally started.
Is there any difference in the way you guide tax now to the way you guided your first two kids? Because they're unique personalities with different interests from each other. So, for example, Reese has her ballet career. Noah changed his mind from wanting to do marine biology to something else. So how has it been different with Dax now? Other than the fact that he's like looking into architecture and urban design.
Dax has a very outgoing personality. I think that would be the key difference. So there's like, whereas with Reese, she was so firm that in terms of extracurricular activities, she wants ballet. And so her whole focus was there. Si Noah was more, okay, on the academic side, he wasn't really into the clubs or anything. So, okay, that's also fine. Except, with the NGO, the community service. But tax is more of like, well, I want to try this, I want to try that. So I think there's more pressure on me. What I'm doing differently is like, I have to be on my toes with tax. Like, okay, well, he's interested in this. So I have to look for resources, diba? To see how, is this really something he's interested in, or he saw something in YouTube that just made him interested, but who knows if he is. So I feel like I have to look for more stuff for tax as opposed to Reese and Noah. But at the end of the day, what is common for all three of them is really spending high school to discover who they are, to have them, not me, but have them discover their unique personalities.
Yeah.
Kasi, diba, like with Noah now, that was the other important thing that the gap year helped Noah thinking is he knew firmly who he was. And when you're in a foreign environment where, people might say things to you that might question who you are, your identity. So, but it's really helping my kids develop a strong sense of identity. Being a Filipino, that's part of our identity. So,
Yeah.
dapat steadfast doon.
Yeah. Okay. I want you to tell the story about the one that you told me about that. It's so funny, but I think that somehow there's something to think about. When he took that test to check where he is.
Ayan, yung career test. No,
That
so, okay,
career test.
that's a funny thing. So I was like, last week, I think it was on a Friday, and it was just a downtime. And I was like, hey, Tax, I saw this career test online. It's like, hey, Tax, try this career test. Just see how just see where you turn out. Diba? So, it's a usual career test that they'll give you questions and, activities like, do I like to do this or this? So you write down, do you strongly dislike, or which activity do you prefer? Ganon. And actually, two things that came out really strong was the first was the art side, so the creativity, diba? But the second was the community service. Actually, this was the second career test ito. And then it came out like, oh, first of all, be an art teacher or be a social worker. Kasi ang lakas talaga ng sense of volunteerism ni Tax, sense of social work, diba? And he goes, nope, that's not it for me. Kasi si Tax is very pragmatic. Diba? So, like, he likes art, but also one of the reasons why he chose architecture, because he thought that's where there'd be more money. There's a chance for him to earn more than, being a regular artist. But so he goes, nope, that's not it for me. And I was like, yeah, but don't discount it, because there might be something in your art or in social work that maybe it's not social work, but it's something there that you can, diba, that you can use later on. So yeah, that was the funny thing. But he kind of like just cut it off. And I was like, open your mind to it, diba? There might be something there.
Yeah, there might be something there, but yeah, I just found it funny, like, but he's already doing it.
Yeah, he's already doing
it. So I guess what he's looking for is what's next. He's already doing it. Like, it's not a career. He's thinking more, I think, on the premise of how I'm going to build my financial future as well, and not
I
just.
love them.
Okay, I want to ask you this question. I know you already gave me an answer that sort of like skirts around it because you have a totally different mindset on this. Because I was asking you how the college pursuits is how important it is for you to, like be able to reach their college aspirations. And you told me that it's really not that. It's that college is just a stop, like a means to get somewhere. Why don't you expound on that? I'd really love the homeschooling parents to hear this.
Yeah. So, okay, first of all, and you know this from me. It's, because I remember you asked me, like, what are you doing now to prepare Tax for college? I was like, I'm not really doing anything. He's only in grade 10. We're more focused on preparing him for life. Diba? So again, it's knowing who he is or what he wants to be. I'd be it sounds, diba, because the way I talk about my kids and the way where my kids are now and what we do, ganon. So it sounds like, oh my gosh, I'm a very college-oriented mom. But I'm going to be the first to tell you that I really don't believe college is for everyone. And I don't believe it is the only path to success. Because I know people personally who are successful, who are happy in life without a college degree. So it's not the be all and end all. I don't think it is, and I don't think it should be for everyone. But for my kids, because of their path, so
Yeah.
sa college, no. But yeah, so what I am doing is I am preparing tax for life. And you've probably seen this in YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, no, where there was this interview with Michelle Obama. And what she said was, what she tells her kids though when they were younger, what she told them every day was, practice who you want to be. So what she said there is, if you get a plate, if you're not getting your homework done, if you're spoiled, that's who you're practicing to be. And it doesn't go away just because you graduate from high school or when you go to college. It doesn't just go away like that. So if you want to be dependable, be dependable. If you want to be trustworthy, be trustworthy. And that's what tax is practicing now. That's what we're doing now. So, for example, no, he chose the leadership position sa science club last year, right? And then he's evolved it into the STEM. But with that position, that position of being the president of the club, it came with responsibilities. So he's owning this responsibility. He actually told me, I have to work harder than the rest of my members because I have to set the example. So he will refuse to cancel club meetings because he said his members expect to meet once a week. And some of the parents have paid for their kids to join the club. Diba? So our homeschool provider requires that the club meets once a week. And so club tax will make sure that they meet 4 times a month. And actually, you've experienced through Judah na they actually met a week earlier than the other clubs. Because, he wants to give them more than what they're expecting. Diba?
Yeah.
When tax accepted that position, I told him, make sure that you give your best to the club. Don't accept it just because it's going to look good on paper or it's because you can put it in your college application. Don't be that student. Do it because you believe and it's clear in your mind what you can do with it. Be that leader that you want to be and do it now while you're still in high school because you have a lot of time to practice. So it's really, that's what I call, it's a process for life. It's not a process for.
I should tell my kids that. I actually did not see that yet, the interview with Michelle Obama, but
I'll send you the link.
yeah, please do.
I think she
will
said
watch it with all my kids.
She definitely said it way better than me. But and then when you're talking about college applications, then so don't be the person you want to be first, and then the colleges later on by organically you become the person that certain colleges will want to accept. That's what happened with Noah. He became the person that certain colleges wanted to accept. And then it's a matter of finding out which colleges those are. Diba? And that makes your application process less stressful, actually.
Yes, because I noticed that some parents already have like a full plan for college for their children who are just, let's say, 9, 10 years old. So I feel that it's very important for them to hear this, to hear that their children need to first know their identities, secondly, learn to practice what they want to be, and then decide how they want to go about with their future. Correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Exactly.
Okay. I noticed that currently it's like that a lot of people going to homeschooling are going into it because they have their eyes set on the universities for their children to go to. Usually it's the top 4 in the Philippines. So what would you advise these parents? Because a lot of them are already anxious. I actually received a message about that from a mom who's only starting out homeschooling with her child, actually unschooling. She said she's been unschooling her child for a few years now, but didn't know what it was. And someone referred her to me, and yeah, she's talking college already, but her child is very, very young. So, what would you advise homeschooling families in general about their children going off to college, the plans for college?
Okay, first, it's okay to have a plan or a dream, diba? But more, I guess, before, no, colleges kasi have their own culture, diba?
Yeah.
Like any institution, they have their own culture.
That's
And it's like in the workplace, diba? There
Mm.
are companies that's a good fit for us culturally, and there are companies that aren't. So I feel college is also like that. There are colleges that are good fit for certain kids. There are colleges that aren't. So that's why for us, for my kids, the focus is more on knowing who they are first of all. Kasi once you do that, the process becomes easier. And plus, you make sure if it's a good fit, they're going to be so happy there. Their 4 years will be really, really happy. But because it's a good fit for them. And at the end of the day, it's our kids who are going to college, not so they have to be the ones to decide, like, I like this college, diba? I feel it's good for me. So know who you are, make sure it's a good fit. So how do you know if it's a good fit? So visit the campus, talk to the students if you can, who are currently enrolled them. Take time to understand the culture and the expectations of the school. You know, if a school is so, for example, very academically rigorous, and that is not the child's orientation, he might be unhappy. He might, I'm saying might, kasi the child might adapt and then later on find out he's happy, but he might also be extremely pressured. So you want to make sure that the student and the child are a good fit. And I always look at college applications as a two-way street rather than, one party, like the college is active, tapos the students are just waiting for for the offers. Diba? It's not one is active, the other is passive. Both have to be active. It's a finding out process. Ganon. And then second, and more importantly for me, is look beyond college. It's merely one of the pathways to a career. Diba? Look, do you think the school will give the child the support he needs? Is your child the type that opportunities have to be presented to him, or is he the type, he can create his own opportunities? So there are colleges that will offer the opportunities and he might do better there. Diba? So it's those kinds of things that they should look out for. Yeah.
We're actually almost done with the interview, and there's really so much more to learn from you. But like I always tell people, like I always tell some of my guests who are offering services, I don't want to juice them too much because I want them to be able to really talk to the people that are really interested. Because we talk about these things in general, but there's always something much more specific for every family. And if they are interested for help in figuring out how to go about their plans for their children or their children's plans for themselves, best to consult with you directly. And like I said earlier, your contacts will be in the show notes. Do you have any last words to offer homeschooling families?
Yeah. So thanks again for this opportunity. So last words. I think with homeschool as well, one of our fears, because what's this? We're the ones really deeply involved in now. We're the ones teaching our kids, helping them, providing to them the opportunities like via extracurricular. But one of the things that I guess would advise homeschooling families is allow your kids to fail. It's not a bad thing. And we had this probably an unpopular opinion, I hope not. But we talked about how some homeschooling families tend to create, these opportunities for their children. And that's okay when they were young, diba? But at a certain point, because I also know parents who actually give the internship opportunities or the leadership opportunities to the kids in their schools, diba? At a certain point in time, we want to teach our kids how to do it for themselves, how to spot the opportunities. Because it's not intuitive. Sometimes the opportunities is already, so far ahead of them, they can't catch up anymore. And then they go, oh, I didn't see that. Diba? So teach them to spot the opportunities, teach them how to get the opportunities for themselves. Like, for example, how will that child, if you later on when he's in college, how will he get the internship when there are 100 kids vying for that? Diba? Let's say that there are few internship opportunities. So how will he make himself stand out? How will he make the college dean feel that he should be the one to get it and not the other, not the other students? Because he's the one, diba? So how to put himself out there? Reese told me before, I remember Reese said this, that she said, I'm really glad that you never used your connections to get us what we wanted. Because then, if you did that, I would have felt that you didn't think we were capable enough of getting it. And I think that's what we really have to show our kids, that we know they are more than capable of getting things for themselves. Yeah. And so it's really instilling in our kids that growth mindset, that, enabling them to see and experience for themselves. Now, hey, I got this. I was able to achieve it on my own without my parents' help. And once they have that will now influence their behavior and later on influence them on whether or not they will pursue their goals. Diba? So growth mindset teaches them to face challenges, not to see challenges not as negatives, but as opportunities to learn and grow. Ito pala, when Noah was attending all these despedidas, medyo napahaba, di ba? But when I was attending all these despedidas, everybody was asking him, are you excited? Kasi di ba, that's a natural question. Are you excited? You know what he told me after his last despedida, he said, do you know what I'm most excited about? I'm most excited to experience the challenges. And then when we dropped him off yung last day niya sa school, when we left him, at his dorm, he said, I'm really excited to take advantage of all the opportunities this school has to offer. So allow them to fail. Don't make them fail. But if you see that they're going to fail, allow them to experience it. Diba? So for example, if the child organized a fundraising event, diba? Like let's say he's sponsoring a movie. I'll just exaggerate for the purposes of this discussion. No? But let's say he sponsored a movie and only 5 people went. Don't suddenly pay for the empty seats. Yeah. Let him figure out how he can improve the activity next time. Kasi there will be time, especially in college, that they're going to face failure and rejection so many times. For example, she organized an activity in her sorority, I think maybe 1 or 2 years back, that she experienced hiccups in an event that she led for her sorority. But she didn't allow it to bring her down. She learned from it, took the learnings, and now she's initiated and she's running a successful mental health program at the NGO. Diba? So this is what I sometimes tell my kids, and it's a little bit funny, but I tell them, learn how to pick yourselves up after a failure and say, I eat rejection for breakfast. Be that bold. And this kind of framing is so powerful because it will allow our kids to bounce back quicker. Kasi they've faced it and they know there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So
I like what you said also, not for parents not to be the one to just serve the opportunities to their children, because it's very common in our, I don't know if it's just our culture, but it's very common among a lot of people that I know. That, of course, I also, like when Pablo was young, I opened opportunities for him to have friends. So I organized a play group And I did the same for the other two younger kids. But later on, as they were growing, I realized that if you just let them out there, for example, the auditions, I just told him there's an audition. I didn't even try to convince him to go to the audition anymore because the year before that, he said no. So I just told him there's an audition. And I don't know what it was that made him decide I'm gonna go and audition, and here's where so I think that the value there is for them to also find confidence in themselves. Yeah, and like you said, that they know that they can do things. It's not just because we don't trust them, but that they can do things without us because it's what we want for them anyway. It's what we're homeschooling them for them to be able to live a life independently without us hovering around or providing for them. We don't want to be the one. What, of course, we'll always be parents who will be open to help them when they need help. But the kind of help and when to help when they're adults is different. It's like far different from how it is when they were young kids. I remember we had a pastor who shared this before. I think his son was 2 years old. He brought him to the stage and made him walk. The child walked, but then he went down on his fours and started crawling. And then the people were laughing. Then they found it cute. And then he said, what do you think? You think it's cute, right? And then he said, imagine you're 48 years old and you're doing that. Do you think it's still cute? And everyone was just quiet. Of course, he meant it for Christian maturity, but it can also be applied in real life. There are things that an adult must learn to do for himself. And it starts when you build it while they were teenagers, not when they're already adults. And that's when you just start teaching them. They have to start while they're young so that when they grow up, they will not depart from the wisdom that you have imparted to them.
And congratulations to Pablo for getting that part. No? I'm sure he felt a greater sense of accomplishment because he did it by himself.
Yes.
So he owned that process. He was accountable for himself. And the rewards of getting that is just, it's nothing that we parents can give because it's so tremendous.
Yes.
That sense of confidence that experience will just bring to him. It's tremendous. We can't give it to them. It has to come naturally to them, to themselves.
I can see the difference now because before when he was in productions when he was younger, of course I would be there asking him to practice his songs, practice his lines and all that. Or sometimes I would even like give him feedback on the way he stands. But now I would hear him, like yesterday, we went to watch a movie, but we came home. He went straight to his room and he told his brothers, guys, I need some time to be myself because I need to run my lines and I need to run my songs. And that sense of responsibility and discipline for himself, that's something that you cannot just teach them by, like spoon feed. You can't spoon feed it to them. It has to come naturally from them. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Thank you so much. I think I will again reflect on everything that you have said today. And I am sure that so many families will learn so much from what you have shared, from your children's experiences to you, to your experiences as a mom. Thank you very much. In behalf of the homeschooling community, I am so grateful that you have agreed to be interviewed all over again. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. And I hope that you will also go back to our previous interview with Eileen in season 1 so that you'll get a bigger picture of how her experiences are with her children, homeschooling them and leading them and guiding them towards pursuing their passions and interests and their purposes in life. Thank you so much. We will put all the links to what was talked about, including the contact details for Eileen if you want to consult her for your children's college plans in the show notes. Good day, everyone.
Thank you.